Can we have a huge round of applause for all the panel speakers, please? I request all the panel speakers to join us on stage.
As far as setting the context is concerned, I don't really see the need to invest too much of time on that, because since morning we have been on this topic only. And the topic for us is future-proofing logistics and envisioning supply chain for 2030 and beyond. So now when we talk about it, this is what we had been discussing since morning, so I'm pretty sure that the context is already set. So we can start with our first question to Anup. And the question is that as we look ahead to 2030, what do you think will be the biggest game changer technology in logistics and supply chain operations, and why?
Sure. Thank you, Sanjeev sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just quickly say, so when we talk about game changer, we also need to understand what the game is, right? The game is same for everyone. The technology remains same for everyone. GPS came, GPS was there for everyone. Now we have video telematics, which is there for everyone. The game changing is how you adapt it, how you're going to use the same. And these technologies follow the real world scenario. Like technology adoption went through the roof when COVID happened. Everybody was adapting technology because everybody wanted to become just in time rather than just in case. There was a lot of redundancies which came in. So largely when we talk to organizations around the country, across sectors, there are 4 things which typically people are looking for. The first is that they want to proactively now address a lot of challenges, which was probably not there 5 years back. They're trying to identify where there are loopholes, where there are leakages, and they want to, plug that. The other is visibility. Silos is still a challenge with most organizations. People want to build bridges across those silos, get everything on the data on a single platform. The third is building more resilience, as you mentioned. You want to look at scenario planning, you're looking at different types of scenarios, you're trying to stress test your own supply chain. And the fourth is again a very important topic is ESG and sustainability. Everybody has their scope 3 challenges, everybody has their ESG goals, you want to become carbon neutral, carbon positive and so on. So they're working towards that. In terms of technology specifically which are interesting, the first, although has been there for some time, is IoT based sensors. And I'll tell you how that's changing. 5 years back we had 2G, so GPS was working brilliantly on 2G, but video telematics was not. So what happens is you have driver monitoring system, and the driver monitoring system will tell you that, okay, the vehicle is running at 55 kilometers per hour or 58 kilometers per hour, so it's not overspeeding. And good, there is some sort of safety and visibility that you get. But with 4G coming in, 5G coming in, now you have video telematics. You can get pictures, you can get videos on. And then you see while the driver was still driving at 58, he was tailgating. He was too close to the vehicle in front of him. And that's also a safety hazard. So as technology changes, you'll get a lot more data which comes through your sensors, and you need to work on those IoT sensors and get the data around that. The second is robotics. Warehousing is very critical. There's a lot of leakages and cost, which is gone down the drain in the warehousing space. And you have a lot of robotics, RPAs, which are coming in, which can probably improve the system. One of the biggest challenges which we see is tracking the inventory in the warehouse, where what is kept. And QR codes, RFIDs, barcodes are going to improve the same thing. The third is EV. So I'm going to say EV, drones, and any other kind of multimodal transportation. That's going to be a big game changer. It will improve your cost, it will reduce your delivery time, and it will improve your inventory level. And finally, the last one is blockchain, especially for 2 purposes. One is obviously transactional, your security purposes, but the other part where we've not seen a lot of blockchain usage is contract management. So not just contract management with your tier 1 supplier, but probably even to your tier 2, tier 3 supplier, so you know exactly what's going on and what are the consequences of the same.
Perfect. Brilliant, thank you. Harish, I have a second question for you. Resilience and agility have become the new buzzwords post-pandemic particularly. But practically, what does building a future-ready, resilient supply chain look like for organizations today, in today's time?
Yeah, I think resilient, agility, responsive, I think those are some of the buzzwords which have been kind of going on. And what I will probably look at is that, each professional over here, a supply chain professional, inherently we are trained to build resilience into our, but it's only the layering of resilience which has become, the talk of town. Because what is a fundamental, tool which all of us use to, be responsive is to put inventory, right? I mean, that's the first level of short-term tool which we kind of use. And yeah, there are tools, techniques to, put the right inventory at the right time and so on and so forth. But I think post-pandemic, what has really happened is that the expanse of resilience and whatever is happening now with the tariff, etc., is exposing what I would call, is actually a long-term resilience in a way. And that is something you just can't do, you hear some news and you can't build that overnight. So that, at least the way we have approached is to really build resilience as a process. Now what I mean by that, and there are 2-3 elements to process. Yeah, there will be a technology which will support that eventually, risk management tools, etc., supplier visibility, go N+1 tier, etc. But idea is that when you really want to go into a mid to long term resilience, it will first of all go against the fundamental grain of what all of us are kind of primed to do, which is efficiency. But the moment you go into resilience, you will build buffers, you will create alternates. All those alternates will come at a cost, right? So as an organization, first of all, there has to be a mandate from the leadership. So it begins with the leadership taking a view, and fortunately with so many external events happening, the board obviously is kind of taking that view and giving that leeway to the supply chain professionals to build resilience. Yeah, there will be a cost and you have to mitigate, but strike that balance, right? So essentially the tools and playbook, I'm sure all of you know, right? It's just about, mapping your suppliers, their dependencies, get early warnings on, what's happening in the capacities. But one thing which really has worked for us is to weave it into your process and not be kind of responsive when the event happens. So one of the examples for which we do is, we've got a joint value creation group within our supply chain, right? And almost in the paint industry, 60 to 65% is the raw material cost, and there are diverse set of vendors. So how do we keep on identifying a risk material and then identify alternates and that is formulated? So how do we jointly create that value, right? So that is the first tool in the process part of it, right? So you continuously engage with your vendors, do their supply chain mapping, study their balance sheets, identify risks happening over there, right? That is the first tool. The second tool is all about, I would say, relationship, because when, the thing breaks, it's your relationship with your partners which will allow you to sail through the storm. And that has happened, and I'm sure there are many examples where when a crisis happens and your vendor has to allocate material, whom do they allocate to, right? So that is the relationship part, and you have to invest into that to kind of really tide over your resilience as you look at the process, right? So in my mind, I think at a brief level, this is what I would say is the key takeaway when you want to build resilience. Agility is much simpler. I think you talked about all the tools available, visibility, early warning, decisions, scenario planning. I think some of those tools is what, our teams are equipped with. For example, everybody talked about the Apple example of, airlifting those. So I'm sure somewhere in their system, there is both leadership. Somebody gave the go-ahead. I'm sure it came at a cost, but the trade-off was made very, very fast, and the whole team worked to make it happen, right? So agility is, I would say, much more simpler, but resilience, I would say, you to really start investing more as a process, get a board mandate, and deviate from some of your efficiency parameters to build those alternate upstream paths is how I would, respond to resilience.
Fully agree. I think this collaborative approach is going to be the key. And with the technological tools that Anup shared, I think these are the two very important things. That takes us to the third question. Ronak, I would put it to you that because as just now we heard Anup talking about the various blockchain and other technological supports that we are having. So question here in continuation is that AI, IoT, automation, we hear these everywhere. How do you see these technologies shaping supply chain efficiency, transparency, and decision making in the next couple of years?
Thank you so much. Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much for the question. This is a very tricky situation that we are in, where we are standing in the middle of lunch, and I think people are just waiting to move out. So I'll keep it very quick. So as you said, that there are actually multiple, case scenarios or, real life scenarios where technology can be leveraged in order to make the supply chain more efficient and even resilient, resilience as we discussed. I think multiple people even before mentioned that, supply chains need to be resilient in today's environment because if that is not the case, it's a very complex, environment that we are living in today, and supply chains have become so complex, more complex than ever. with the advent of e-commerce, quick commerce, it is not possible to be able to leverage, and work in today's environment if companies don't invest in technology. And technology should always be looked at from an investment angle rather than from a cost perspective. In terms of some of the use cases where we have deployed technology in our company and we've seen the results, we've deployed AI at multiple levels. I think to begin with, one of the most fundamental things of our business was vehicle procurement from the market, whereby, it's a very, very, I would say, an unorganized environment. And what we did was we tied up with a partner whereby we set the benchmark rates that we wanted to procure the vehicle at and on a per kilometer basis. And we deployed AI so that, AI gives us the best option, which is the most suitable vehicle that we should be engaging. So that was one test case scenario which worked very well for us. Then we also introduced AI dash cams for our vehicles, whereby, to understand the driver behaviors and pattern while driving the vehicles, through which we saw, a reduction in number of accidents, road accidents that were happening, on the trips. So these are some of them. One of the precursor that I would like to share, with all of you is before deploying any technology, one thing that everyone needs to, do is baselining on the data. Because if the quality of data is not, right, then the output that you get is always going to be sub judice. And, it's like garbage in, garbage out, So everyone in today's environment have to, I think it's a non-negotiable thing where, the data should be, I think as accurate as possible to have the optimal results. Another thing, before investing in technology, I think it is very important that we do an ROI calculation that basically, for the cost at which the technology is deployed, what is the return that you will get. We've seen a lot of companies around us who just for the sake of deploying technology, make crazy investments, and then when the returns don't show up, the entire motivation of really sustaining that technology or investing in technology in the future, kind of dies out. So I would, from a layman perspective, one advice would be that, please understand that what is the ROI that you are expecting out of the technology. If that is not done, then I think it will not motivate you to take things further. And of course, then there are a host of IoT, I think systems available to monitor temperature, to, understand the, location of the vehicles, to do better tracking and tracing, and so on and so forth. So I would not spend much time considering the paucity of time, but I think these fundamentals really need to be, understood before, venturing into technology. And technology is I think a non-negotiable tool or, a part of our lives today. Thank you.
True. Actually, as very rightly you said that it is up to the investor to think through that how the ROI will come. I remember because I had been on the user side most of the time. So one of our service provider came and he said कि सर आपको सब टेक्नोलॉजी चाहिए, ये भी चाहिए, वो भी चाहिए, आप लोग पैसा तो देते नहीं हो. So I told him it is not that we will give you more money. It is helping you to sustain in the market. Otherwise, you will be out of market. So technology adoption is not that you will get more money. It is only it will help you to be there in the market. Otherwise, you will be out of market because if you are not updated, then you are outdated. So I think that's very critical point. Yeah. So important another aspect of all this future-ready supply chain is sustainability. So Priyanka, I come to you for that. That sustainability is no longer optional. I think it's it has to be there. We all have to be focused on that. How are companies aligning their logistic strategies with green supply chain? And while balancing cost and operational efficiency, because as just now we were talking about the cost part. So how do we strike the right balance, still focus on the green supply chain and focus on sustainability?
Yeah, thank you, Sanjeev. While this topic is very close to my heart, being in a chemical industry, so technically we are supposed to be the polluters of the world and stuff like that. But I always start this conversation anywhere that while we are supposed to do a lot of stuff for the environment, for the sustainability, and it's the call of the hour, the way our world is going, it's definitely the call of the hour. But if I put it at a very layman language, and if I put it at a grassroots level, like, you know, how many of us over here, if tomorrow somebody tells us कि आपका Tetra Pak दूध आ रहा है in your EV vehicles and वहाँ पे सब solar panel से बनता है, but आपको वो 1 लीटर के डब्बे के लिए 10 रुपए extra देना पड़ेगा. How many of us in this room in a cost-sensitive country would be like, yes, I will bear that cost? I would say, actually, to be honest, none of us. None of us, right? I'll be very honest, including me, none of us would be like, अगर 10 रुपए कम मैंने क्या ठेका ले रखा है क्या सबका, you know, something like that. Yeah, so that's a very disruptive thought process, but unfortunately, we are living in a very cost-sensitive country, and hence this topic of sustainability becomes even more important to us. True. Because the way we implement it, the way we are aware of the cost, the way we are ready to share the cost with our customers, how we go about it, it becomes a very complicated and yet more important subject for us. So to start with for us, I would say for a chemical organization, we are a multinational, so obviously there are certain regulations which are imposed upon us, which I think are important. You know, working at a local level without regulations, without a top-down push, it would be impossible. You know, when the government, many years back, I don't even remember, decided that wearing a belt is a compulsion. And there we were talking of individual lives, our own lives. Here we are, in the case of sustainability, we are talking of the earth and the planet, which, you know, technically directly doesn't impact any one of us. But when they made it a mandate and started fining heavily, and it became a regulation, like nobody could escape not wearing a seat belt. Everybody started wearing a seat belt because fine tha. Not because it saves my life, but because there was a fine. And today also, half of the time we do it because there is a fine now, actually. So I feel that what is important for when we talk of sustainability, whether we like it or not, it has to come as a regulation. That is the time when, you know, people will start implementing it across the board. When my vendor tells me or my customer tells me that I need material from a plant, which is, for example, this certified, that's a sustainability certified, we are going for ISCC certification, which is comparatively new, I will go for it because my customer is wanting it. And when everybody asks for it and implements it, you will have to do it compulsorily, basically. And so I feel that regulation would be very important for it. And secondly, I feel the top-down attitude, that your green sustainability initiatives, which I think in case of supply chain are mostly driven by logistics. Majority of it falls under logistics, whether we like it or not. And this has to align with the corporate strategy, basically. So there was a time when in our organization, there was a sustainability manager, say about a decade back, when this all started coming up in every talk and everything. And the poor guy was given some targets, and he would come to every BU, I have to do this, I have to do this. BU would be like, मेरे को 2 रुपए customer ने कम करने के लिए बोले, मैं नहीं ये सब कर सका. You know, how do I integrate it into my BU strategy? So what becomes very important now, we are at a stage, luckily, that now everything is being driven by the corporate strategy. So the corporate strategy, so you don't leave it to a sustainability manager that you go and convince the BU or the SU, but everything comes from the corporate strategy, and this is how it has worked for us. We started slow. We can't, to be honest, what you said, how do we kind of implement it? We can't go big bangs. We have to start with small initiatives. At the factory level, we start recycling, reusing, so that, you know, something doesn't hit it on the price, because we know customers are not ready to pay for that price on day one. The awareness is very important, not only amongst the organization, but amongst our vendors, amongst our customers. So both ways, it has to come both ways, from our vendors, from our customers, which is happening because a lot of customers, we have the Unilevers of the world, the P&Gs of the world, who are insisting on a lot of sustainability initiatives that are being driven from our plant level, and that is mandatory for them to buy it from us. So that in itself drives us. So we started small at the community level. And then we are looking at more like, I would say, an environmental level, which is kind of helping us today. And we have reached a stage where we have intertwined it to our corporate strategy to such an extent that even emphasizing it and enforcing it at the vendor end becomes easy, because we are not only talking of price, we are also talking about the brand that we are trying to build, not only for us, but also for the vendors. Because right now it may sound cool, or it may, I don't know how they may want to project, but if you look at it the right way and if you market it the right way, it also helps you to build a brand which is very, I would say, conscious of the environment. And today, definitely people do look up to it. So it's not only about the costing. So if you think of getting ki, if I spend 10 rupees, I'm gonna get, no, I will have to, it's like a CSR activity that you're contributing to the environment. You are contributing for CSR, you're contributing to the community, but here you're contributing to the environment at a larger level. You have to look at it that way. So maybe you might have to take out a small percentage of your profit initially, but yes, eventually you will be able to make an impact by way of a brand building, by way of talking it in your marketing. When you're talking of marketing, like I always talk of ITC whenever I'm at this venue, and if I'm talking about this topic, I always talk about the topic, they never keep plastic bottles, you know. Initially people might find it, you know, it's not very convenient, but the end of it, it definitely, a lot of my global guests come and then are aware of the ITC brand because of it, because I think as of now in hospitality industry, it's one of the one which has really taken a lot of sustainability initiatives, whether I'm talking of a very small thing like a glass bottle basically, you know. So I would like to end it over here because I think the bell is already there. Yes, but it's an unending topic, but we are getting there. Yes,
I think we can recommend UBS forums to have one session where you know, they talk only about this and to educate the top management, because it has to flow from top to bottom, and unless that awareness comes in, it's going to be Herculean task. So quickly, maybe another 2 minutes each kind of questions. Sukanta, this one is for you, that with ongoing global trade wars, I was seeing Trump's picture somewhere earlier. So with the ongoing global trade wars, geopolitical tensions and shifting economic alliances, how do you see these factors impacting global supply chain strategies? And what steps should organizations take to mitigate these risks?
Thank you, Sanjeev. I'll not take much time. So there is a puzzle going on of trade war. You know, we all played puzzle, and this puzzle is, you know, pretty interesting. And everyone, including me, you know, we love to blame Trump, but stories lie somewhere else. It's interesting, you know. And for supply chain, if you see COVID, what happened? And then the new norms, and everybody played well. Initially, there was a struggle. So all resilience, technology, you know, risk management, everything was done well. See, two things. World is not going to be the same, and so as the supply chain. If you take example of China and US, 75 countries, they got some relief for 90 days. I don't know how many days it will go on, because every day they can change, announce as per their wish. So 75 countries, 10% over and above the whatever the tariff was going on, not the China. So if you talk about the challenges for China, pre this trade war, supply chain was overall smooth between these two countries. Post, what happened? It is disrupted. And disrupted to a certain level, like I'm into aluminum industry, so CP coke is to, you know, raw material for from US to China. Now they are not, they are thinking of exploring alternative countries. Similarly, pre this trade war, China was in a hurry to dump most of their goods to US. So they hired, let's say, almost 350 odd vessels to, you know, load and deliver everything quickly. What happened? US put extra 1.15 million, you know, rupees for per extra Chinese built vehicle, Chinese built vessel. So 17% of the vessel in the world built by China. There is also, if a operator using Chinese vessel, operator is also from Chinese, that extra amount you have to pay. So everything comes to a cost. So if say let's from India, I have to hire a vessel. I do a lot of chartering for vessel for import and import. So for US, I did a brake bulb. For that brake bulb, if I use Chinese vessel, it is comparatively cheaper for me. Then I have to explore alternative. What you can do, like resilient, of course. I think the most important thing we can do is stay informed, update your risk register. If you don't have any, please create it and invest in technology and explore. See, the friends are no more friends. So create new friends. Explore alternative market. And yesterday only we had a meeting, I was looking at the data. February, January, Russia import 87% of the aluminum scrap from China. So you have to create a new market, explore alternative, and Red Sea. What happened in Red Sea? There are a lot of the ocean freight went up to $6,500, $7,000. Now it is comparatively better. What we have done? We have done a long-term agreement. So even in Red Sea challenges, we are safe. Now, last couple of days, we had a agreement with couple of customer who buy my aluminum, and we had 2 years of contract. Similarly, I am trying to replicate that contract with shipping line. So even there are challenges. There will be challenges, and the world is not going to be the same again. So be ready for the challenges. Prepare, plan for unplanned, and
Make new friends.
make new friends.
True, very well said. So finally, I think our time is getting over. So Bhatendu, one important question which actually comes from this, that disruptions are here to stay. So from geopolitical tensions to climate change, what proactive measures should businesses take to future-proof their supply chain against the next big unknown?
Disruptions are a constant, and if we look at last 25 years, why go far, Y2K, SARS, 2007 global recession, 2011 tsunami, and then 2020 COVID, and 22, 23 onwards, it's carrying on the geopolitical tension in Europe, and followed by this tariff war. So in some form or the other, it will keep coming. So let's accept that first and see the countries which are impacted and see the countries which are not impacted and what those countries have done which are not impacted. And I think the best example is India. I'll speak in the context of India. A very strong domestic demand, a very fair, fine and strong regulatory mechanism as far as the banks are concerned, little exposure to the toxic financial assets. These are the kind of things which India has always adhered to, and hence we have kind of insulated ourselves to a large extent from all these disruptions. Yesterday's newspaper, we know how the stock exchange bounced back and why. If somebody has read the analysis, this is exactly what I'm saying. So when we look at, since we have paucity of time, and this topic, this question what you have asked me, cannot be covered in 2 minutes, sir. I'll take a little extra. So it has to be a collaborative approach between the government of India and the corporate. Since morning we have heard AI, technology, training. This is all within the corporate, but let's see what government has to do. They have to provide the ecosystem. And in terms of the policy framework, the process framework, the digital infrastructure, the fundamental physical infrastructure, without that, all these initiatives, what we have spoken about since the morning, will remain internal to the companies and will not take off. It will not insulate us. So, when we look at what government has done, so let's talk about National Logistics Policy 22 rolled out. We talk a lot about IoT, ULIP in that, and a lot of good things are there. But what government has to do now is, having rolled it out, which was long overdue, they have to ensure that it meets the timelines. All the objectives set over there are met. The second thing government has to do is, they rolled out GST, and a lot of companies have benefited from it, my company included, where we have moved away from a sort of, if I may use the terms loosely, from globalization to regionalization and to localization. We have been able to, and I'm sure a lot of other companies have also been able to create a local ecosystem of suppliers, of raw material, of machines, of technology. And our dependence has reduced on China. In my company's case, it's a lovely example. We have reduced it. I'll not go into details again for the sake of time. Apart from that, government has to also incentivize the local manufacturing in a big way as a policy. Government has to incentivize the commercial use of EVs. Otherwise, sustainability, whatever we have committed in 2014 in Paris, and the corporate will not be able to play its role to the full extent. Apart from that, two very, very important points, and that you look at pestle model, you look at any other model, it remains relevant always, ever, is corruption and the law and order. Unless that is tamed, you look at it from an investor's lens, and I need not stress more on that, how will, even if you have a lot of human resource in Uttar Pradesh, in Bihar, and in West Bengal, how would you think of doing business over there with the kind of problems related to what I've just spoken, stay? So that is the role government has to play. Corporate can do nothing in it. We can follow if that is addressed. And what corporate has to do is something which has been spoken since morning. You look at the leaders sitting here, the leaders who are the CEOs, one on my left side, the people, those who have to take decisions, largely in their 50s, finished their formal education 30 years ago when computers was just coming in. For them to understand what the future would look like is a big challenge, and that is where they have to make themselves more relevant by understanding what the present AI, whether it is general AI, whether it is the future form of AI, what it will offer and how my business will get benefited from it. That decision has to be taken now. And for them to stay relevant, they have to understand it. They have to shorten their OODA loop. So when the leaders understand it, they will be able to understand the real use of manpower potential which they can exploit. It has to be at two levels. People who are high potential, who can understand technology, who can make use of that technology, and those who can simply follow the technology. We have a lot of people in India who can follow Android technology, use WMS, use TMS in the warehouse, in manufacturing. But how many can think of designing a program which will benefit us 5 years hence? So that is where high potential manpower comes in. And for them to give that ecosystem where they can do 100 things, maybe 5 would be wrong, is the responsibility of the leaders of today. Technology, yes, it is there. So I'll just not touch on that generative AI part and all that, what it can do. One more important thing. How do you train your people in use of technology? That's one thing. But in being responsible, and that's where sustainability part comes in. How in their general life they can be more responsible towards the environment. It's not only about solar panels, it's not only about plantation, it's about how do you not think that what carbon emission can do. Is it taught in the schools? It isn't. So a large part has to be, it is towards the government, sir, and then in-house training of people.
True.
So all that is very important. I have tried to, sum it up very quickly, but these are those things on which we can have very long discussions. And these are very relevant points. So I think I'll end by saying this, that when we talk about future, we have a lot of responsibility on our shoulders to design programs now. And one word for UBS forums. we are talking about, a topic which was supposed to be scheduled at 12:30. It is 2:15. Next time when you invite us, it's a sincere request that please adhere to the time schedule. Because we have meetings beyond this. I think all of them, those who are sitting here, waiting for lunch break, the kind of topics we are discussing here would have been more interesting. But everybody is looking at his watch, and that is something which is very demotivating. Thank you.
Thank you, Vatindra. Thank you, everyone on the panel. Thank you very much.
Sure,
And thank you very much to each one of you. We won't be taking any questions right now, but we are all available. So any offline discussion, we can always carry on along with the lunch. So thank you very much.